Recording started.
Hello, everybody. I want to welcome you this week to the May Exit discussion group call for tactical sovereignty. Like I always say, this is Sunday, the first day of the week, not the 7th, and therefore also not the Sabbath. And this week just so happens to land on Halloween, and which I guess maybe we'll add some twists regarding that this evening as well while we talk. But this is going to be a continuation. This is a part two with our talk with Jules from a couple weeks ago. And it's been advertised in a couple places this week. So a few people should be here. If not, the recording will be available on the TalkShoe playlist or on YouTube. Either way, so we just want to welcome Jules, and I'll just turn it over to you and let you introduce the info that you've come across this evening.
Okay. So, do you want to, I was going to suggest because I can see how many people are actually on the call live. Do you want to unmute them so they're able to ask questions as we go along? Or do you want to wait? Because
let's wait until after the information's been presented. Okay. And if anybody has any questions along the way or anything, just write them down so you don't forget them, and you'll have them handy when we open up the lines.
Okay. Okay, so do you have my screen share on?
You should be able to screen share.
Oh, I thought you did that last time. Oh, here it is. Yes, allow. Okay. So what you guys are gonna Brian, tell me when you can see my screen.
Yep.
Okay. So you guys see everything that's open on my computer, and I apologize, but I'm sure y'all are doing 100 things as well. So you know what I was going to do was I was going to turn my camera off, so I'm not distracting you. But I did want y'all to be able to put a face to my name, and so I'm going to turn that off so that it's not distracting you. I don't have to worry about how my hair looks or whatever.
Yeah, that's no problem. And I just want to remind people as well that if you are on the live TalkShoe right now, you can do the same thing on a live TalkShoe that you can do on a Zoom, which is while Jules is sharing screen, if something is not big enough for you or you want to zoom in on something particular that's being shown on the screen, you can just take two fingers and expand it like you do a map, and that way you'll get a better view. So go ahead, Jules.
Yeah, I think I'm going to keep this open so I can see if somebody puts a message up since they are muted. Okay, so I have a huge screen, by the way. So if there's something that you can't see or you can't get big enough, shoot me a chat, and I will try to pay attention to that. So it's huge on my screen. So let me preface this by saying I know that on the last call, first off, I'm so sorry for being tardy to that. It's not in my routine to be on these calls, so I messed that up as well as the time zones, and I apologize. So with that being said, I know you guys did talk a little bit, or maybe even the whole call, I don't know, about this affidavit from the state trooper. And I asked Brian if we could just start over and have my explanation of this affidavit kind of in whole on this recording. So, seems I'm going to be checking those chats. So if I stop talking for a second, that's what I'm doing. Okay, so let me give you some background. This was normally I do not help with traffic tickets. I don't have time. If you have a driver's license, you're in a contract, and you have duties and responsibilities to fulfill. And this woman happened to be my sister, and she had asked me, and I told her no, I don't want to help with those. I don't have time. I've got bigger causes. But she kept nagging me. So I did. I told her, I said, okay, just appear by affidavit. Okay. And I'll type up your affidavit. And in her affidavit, I had put that she's not the registered agent, and that she resigned, blah, 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 blah. Then she got a notice that said that she had been found guilty on this ticket. And the state had appeared by affidavit.
Hey,
But
Jules.
hold on. Yeah.
Jules. How about if you do turn off maybe your camera so your bandwidth is a little better, because your voice is a little bit garbled.
Oh, I did turn off the camera.
Okay.
Can you hear
All
me better
right.
now?
It's still just garbled just a little.
Oh my gosh, I'm so disappointed. Were we having this problem before when you and I were just chatting?
No, we weren't. It didn't start until you started the screen share. So I was just trying to think of other things that maybe you could
And
limit.
I think that's the problem when we had the problem come up last time.
Yeah, last time it was way worse though.
Okay. Then let me turn my camera back on. Is that any better?
I don't know. Let's see.
Testing, testing. Can you hear me?
Yeah, it seems like it's
Is it
okay.
okay?
Yeah.
Okay, it shows the recording at 0. The time frame. What are you showing? Oh, wait a minute.
Yeah, my device doesn't show quite as much of that.
But you can see my screen, right?
Yep, I see your screen fine.
Okay, you see where it says 0 minutes?
Right.
Okay. I just want to make sure that it does record. So it'd
Oh
be
yeah.
nice to do things once.
Yeah.
Well, anyway. Okay. So she got notice that the court had found her person guilty, and pull this up, that the state had appeared by affidavit. Okay. So I said, well, go get the affidavit because we didn't get to respond to it. And I guess they consider that this affidavit you're looking at was their response or rebuttal to her affidavit. So he basically, you can tell when he stops talking, he's talking about I, she. Okay. And then then you can see right here where it says 10th Amendment. This is copy and pasted. You can tell that the language changes, the voice changes. So let's start right here. I contacted the driver and identified my agency, and that the conversation was being recorded and the reason for the stop. I then asked the driver if she had a justifiable reason for violating the Oregon laws. The driver told me that a small dog, whatever. So he says, okay, so I asked her if I could see her driver's license. That's thing one. Okay. It says here that the driver provided it. Okay. Then he asked her if she had registration, and she provided it. Okay. And the third thing is that he asked her if she had insurance on the vehicle, and said yes, and provided it. Okay. Now you'll see where the voice changes. So he asked her to confirm her contract in 3 different ways. Okay. Now, you'll see in here where, and I wish I could highlight it, it's going to highlight the whole page, but if you'll look where my mouse is, can you see my mouse moving around? It says when a person, you see my mouse now? When a person applies for a license and is granted the privilege to operate a vehicle in the state, they become. So before you apply, you're not. And once you apply and you're granted the privilege, you become what? A registered agent, number one, principal, number two, and representative, number three. Okay? Something very important in that what just did a grant. Okay? It is a grant. Let's see, I have this pulled up for you guys. Oh, American. Okay, page 59. And right here it will say, let's go show you the page where it says it's grant of privilege. I had it all pulled up for y'all where you could see. Oh, well, there you go. There you can see it's a grant right here, driving privilege. And in here they had the wording grant of privilege. I'm not going to waste your time trying to find it. It's there. So basically to make sure we do go over this whole thing. So just review real quick. So she had to show her registration, her license, and insurance. Now, he just said she becomes the registered agent, principal, and representative. 3 things for 3 things. Okay. So somebody told me the other day, this, well, you can't be all 3. Yes, you can. You can be a mother, you can be a wife, and you can be a sister. You can be a husband, you can be a provider, you can be a president of the bank. You can be all sorts of things. Maybe you're the bank, be the president, but you get a personal call from your wife, and now your husband. Okay, so we switch these hats like this. So you're the registered agent when you're pulled over on the side of the road, and they are giving you a certificate of service or service of process. The representative when you walk in and represent the defendant, and the principal is the one who has to pay. Okay, now those 3 things make you these 3 things. Let me show you how this works. In the Administrative Procedures Act, you guys, I don't know if you guys have pulled this up, but this is how I've done everything. This is the see if I have this Administrative Procedure Act. Oh my goodness, come on, Julie. Right here you go. This is the Administrative Procedure Act. It's like 9 pages total. Best thing you can do is read this, because when you go to the this Oregon or your state driver, what do they call this? The vehicle code, your state's vehicle code, you're going to see administration all over the place. Watch this. Everything's going to be all about administration.
Yeah, I think this is kind of where the courts went from what people thought of as the de jure courts of old to in administrative courts today under the Administrative Act. I
However,
was
administrating is contracts.
absolutely everything they're doing is enforcing contracts. I remember I was in a case one time, and I was looking through a piece of paperwork that the judge wanted me to refer to, and in the meantime, she said to me, she says, "Brian," she says, "do you understand who I am here today?" And just right off the tip of my tongue, I just blurted out, "Yes, you're the administrator of these proceedings." And she just clammed up.
And that's why you ask, that's why you say I have an administrative question, because all administrative questions have to be answered in a administrative setting. Okay, this is the Administrative Procedure Act. Right here, it'll tell you right here, it's the administration of justice. Okay. All right, so they're administrative justice, license, and licensing. License includes the whole or part of any agent's permit, that's permission written, certificate, approval, registration, charter, note that word, charter, membership, statutory exemption, or other form of permission. Licensing includes agency process respecting the grant, renewal, denial, revocation, suspension, annulment, withdrawal, limitation, amendment, modification, or conditioning of a license. So if you have a certificate or a license of any kind from the government, then you have a license to practice law to represent a defendant in an administrative court. Okay, read your Administrative Procedures Act. Okay. So, okay, let me go. Okay, so let's get this. So she had to show three things, and she suddenly became three things, right? Now, okay, guys, is the audio better? I just was checking in with the chats. Is it better?
On my end, it's still slightly garbled, but it's understandable or comprehensible.
Okay, all right. It's a bit dicey.
That's okay. I figure when you're done sharing what needs to be shared as far as screen share goes, you can drop that, and I'm sure the audio will go back to normal, and we can touch back on these things again.
Okay, I'm going to unplug my head. We're going to try that. Okay, can y'all hear me better now? Is it clearer?
It sounds okay right now, yeah.
Okay, Gordon says it seems clear. Okay, we'll start that. Okay, all right, so let's look at the exciting things we have here. I want to show you how the registered agent, principal, and representative works. When they pull you over on the side of the road, you're the registered agent. You're accepting service of process. Okay. When you show up to court, you are the representative for the defendant. Look these words up, by the way. Registered agent in your Black's Law Dictionary. Registered agent receives service of process. A representative stands for or speaks on behalf of another person. Okay, so you're the representative of the defendant person. And the principal always has to pay. Okay, so watch what happens. When you register your vehicle, you're the registered agent because you registered it. Your license is your proof that you're the representative. And the principal, you're the principal because you had insurance. So that's how they know that you are those three things. So if you don't want to be those three things, you better not have those three things. Okay. So look how they say they did this. Okay. The 10th Amendment. Everything the state does will depend on the 10th Amendment. Now, they love to forget that it says for the people. The 10th Amendment says the powers not delegated to the United States
by the Constitution, nor prohibited to it by the states, are reserved to the states respectively or to the people. Respectively means first, but that doesn't mean that they get priority. The state has to ask the people for those rights that are not delegated. Those powers that are not delegated to the United States are delegated to the people. The people can turn around and delegate those on the state. Okay, this is where people make the mistake of thinking that the state has more authority than you. The state gets its authority from you. Okay, so under the 10th Amendment, the state, and all states run the same. Okay, they have a word here, they're different, but they all run the same, and they have to. Okay, they have to. So under the 10th, so anywhere you see on here that's Oregon, I'm looking over here at the chat room, put your state's name there, and you're going to understand. Under the 10th Amendment, the state created its own constitution and laws as they are allowed under the U.S. Constitution and developed a taxing system. First thing, your license or contract with the state in order to drive is a taxing system. Perfect example of taxation without representation. Okay? And here's how they did it. The state also created a roadway system for the use of vehicles. Now, let's take a time out here. The state didn't create them. The state took taxpayers' money and paid for the post roads. There's a big difference between a post road and a roadway system. Okay? There's no freaking system. Okay? It's a road. For the use of vehicles, for any conveyance. Okay, so you see how they're changing the words along the way to ensure the safety in everything they do, as long as they say that it's for the safety or the welfare, then the 10th Amendment allows them to do it. So anytime you're doing something, you better say it was to ensure the safety or it was for the welfare of the people, even if it's people involved. To ensure the safety of all the people using the roadway, the state created a driver's licensing program requiring all users of the roadways to meet minimum qualifications in order to use the vehicle on the ways that the state created with your money. By the way, the state didn't create it, they had contractors come in and make the roads. When a person applies for a license and is granted the privilege to operate a vehicle in the state, they become a registered agent, principal, and representative. And you're going to see when we get to the very bottom of this page, we're going to come right back to that sentence. Okay? And you're responsible for the actions of the operations of their vehicle and are the legal registered representative principal for receiving and accepting summons as your registered agent and legal process related to the operation of their vehicle on a public roadway. Now, he said those three things twice in that one paragraph. And government is guardianship, okay? And the one thing I learned with laying down the rules or the laws with my kids was to keep repeating what was most important, right? I'm going to say it over and over and over again. So I'm not going to tell you this one more time.
Yeah, they like to use the power of threes also.
Yes. So I see somebody put in Ontario, Canada. I'm telling you, there is no states, there's no boundaries, there's no nothing. Everybody's operating the same. Okay? It works so well. It's just a shampoo, rinse, repeat system. Okay. All right. So the state, in order to pay to maintain roadways within its boundaries, due to vehicle operations causing wear and tear on roadways, taxing system. Now they said that twice, which is allowed under the state and federal laws, 10th Amendment. In order to manage the roadway system, the state developed a vehicle licensing system to track the number. Wait a minute, track the number. That's not for safety. of operating on the roadway system to ensure all users pay their fair share of the maintenance. Okay, so you paid for the road to be built, and you're taxed on the shared maintenance. That's your gas taxes. Okay, the tax has already been paid. Now, they admit that they also want to track the number of vehicles operating on that road. Well, how are they doing that? By counting the number of licenses. The state, as allowed under the U.S. Constitution and state constitution, also created this statute, which allows a sworn police officer to stop a vehicle and investigate why the vehicle and the person, registered agent, representative, and principal responsible for and operating the vehicle is not in compliance with the laws of the state, and allows a sworn police officer to issue a traffic citation to the person, legal registered agent, representative, or principal who violates the law. Now, what did he just tell you? He just told you they can only pull over the person, the legal registered agent, and the representative and principal. Okay. Okay. So if you're not the agent, representative, and or the principal, they can't pull you over. But how do you become registered agent, principal, and representative? By applying, being granted the privilege to operate a vehicle. Okay. Here's the most important thing. Other than it's a tax system and it's a grant. Okay, when you give up your right, and this is a contract, you are entering into a contract with the state. Your consideration is your right to travel. That's the consideration you're giving up, and they're giving you a privilege. So you're given a right and they're giving a privilege. So your right to travel traded for your privilege to operate a vehicle. And if you go through here and see how many times it says operate a vehicle, okay, but the language changes dramatically here. And let me tell you something. If you ever took English in high school, this should sound very familiar. When you're writing or typing and you give the rule, you're going to put a semicolon and a but, however, and then comma, and you're going to write the exception. Okay? There's never a rule for everybody. There's always the exception to the rule. We're talking about an exemption, we're talking about an exception. And here it is. Here's where he tells you. The laws created by the state of Oregon under the 10th Amendment of the United States Constitution do not prohibit travel of citizens. So you can travel or you can operate a motor vehicle. That's your choice. Any citizen may travel within this state. And notice there's a space within is not one word. In this state. In this state, if you pull up the PDF of this of Oregon's where did I have it pulled up? Motor vehicle code. Oh, here it is. And you look up every time it says in this state. Oh, whoops. My bad. Am I still, can you still see my screen?
Yep, looks fine.
Okay. In this state. See it highlighted? It all depends on if it's in that state. There it is again. There it is again. That's what's important. And let me tell you something, your state is nothing but a registered corporation that has a charter. So there's no way that you can be in that state. So don't misunderstand what you're reading here. However, to operate, so there's your rule. Any citizen may travel with, in this state, unrestricted. You know what unrestricted means? There's no restrictions, there's no rules, there's no codes. They can't restrict you. Okay. However, to operate a vehicle on a roadway, now that tells you that we're talking about two different things. A citizen may travel unrestricted. However, to operate a vehicle doesn't say to travel on a roadway maintained within the state. It changes the language completely. Within the state, a person, the legal registered agent, representative, and principal must possess an Oregon license. Here's the thing. You cannot be the registered agent, representative, and principal if you don't have a license. Because how do you become one of those things? Apply and be granted a license. You see it right there? This is who they can pull over. However, a person, registered agent, representative, and principal must possess an Oregon license or have a duly licensed, issued license from another state, have the vehicle licensed, and possess insurance. The operator of the vehicle must also operate the vehicle within the laws of the state pertaining to vehicles. So that's with restrictions. Okay, so here you have unrestricted travel. Okay, and then you have operation of a vehicle. So all this crap up here, everything above that last paragraph is operating a vehicle on the roadways that the state created. There's your exception right there. Any citizen may travel within this state unrestricted. However, to operate a vehicle, you have to be a registered agent, representative, and principal. You must have a driver's license, registration, and insurance. Now, a lot of people want to know where is that elusive do not detain. Let's see if I can come to that real quick. I'm going to show you your do not detain, do not arrest. Okay, maybe it's in here.
While you're looking for that, just a reminder, it's something that I located, I think I mentioned it before, is in the California Vehicle Code. If anybody wants to look it up, it's CVC 17459. That's CVC 17459. And it was talking about getting a driver's license. And it states there that upon getting the driver's license, that you are accepting the position of registered agent for service of process. And you can find similar language in the other states as well. So that's kind of part of that contract laying behind what you're agreeing to when you sign up. But I found it was really interesting. They stated right there that that is where you are agreeing to be the agent for service of process. And I believe it was also in that California Vehicle Code, the same one, where it mentioned that part of the trade of what they're giving up, part of this conveyance or whatever, is you are accepting their ability to govern your behavior on the roadway. And it's like, oh, really? That's kind of an interesting thing I'm trading for.
I'm going to come back here to here. Oh, shoot. Brian, I'm going to hand it over to you. You talk for just a minute, and I'm going to go get something. I'm going to have to hold it up.
All right, no problem. No problem. And I think it's interesting if you dig into whatever state you live on, and look at some of these different codes and things that they've written, because you're going to find some interesting little hints here and there. I remember a few years ago, I went down to the Department of Motor Vehicles and I said, I'm not here to get anything done. I just have a question. And I asked him, I said, when somebody signs for a driver's license, I said, people need to realize that whenever your signature is required, there's a contract lying behind the scenes somewhere that they're agreeing to. And they said, yes. I said, okay. I said, so I'm correct on that. I said, do you have such a contract, something like this in writing that people can read ahead of time so they've got full disclosure of what they're agreeing to before they sign? And the lady was like, well, I really don't know. I think it might be on the computer somewhere. And I said, somewhere, you don't know specifically? And she said, no. So I had to recite for her where in the Florida statutes where you find this information at. And she's like, oh, okay, I didn't know that, But I thought, it really should, in my opinion, be a requirement that whatever you're agreeing to, whatever contract you're becoming a party to, that is right there in black and white for you to see if anybody is to request it. Because, full disclosure isn't automatically required with everything you do. People need to realize that. But full disclosure is required if you demand it. If you demand it and they don't provide it, then there can't be a contract. I remember when I was looking through some of the vehicle codes, I was looking at North Carolina, for instance, and I was looking at registration of vehicles, and I thought it was interesting that within that section, they included some definitions. I thought, okay, this is kind of curious. So I looked at their definitions in that section, and it said that when they were referring to person, it was referring to natural person, juridic person, statutory person, corporate body, yada, yada, yada. Okay. And then when you went down into the subsection for registration and who it pertains to, it omitted the natural person. That was no longer listed when it came to registration. This was strictly just for the juridic person, for that artificial entity that the state created. And I thought it's important to see not just what they have listed in their statute, but look at what they omit, look at what they don't put there, because that's just as important.
Well, a lot of people get hung up on that individual, because it says individual, corporation, da, 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 da. Individual means one. Okay. It does not mean you. Okay. I'm gonna put this headset back in. I went ahead and turned off my computer, my screen share. Okay.
Am I coming in?
Yep, you're coming in fine.
Okay. All right. So let me show you something. I thought I had a picture of this. Okay. So are you familiar with the Libra code?
Oh, very familiar.
Okay. Love the Libra code. In the Libra code, I probably should have left my screen share on for that, but
That's all right.
in the Libra code, it talks about letter of safe conduct. Okay. Go to your Black's Law Dictionary and look up under letter, look up letter of safe conduct, and it'll tell you it's a passport. Okay. And the Libra code will tell you that the letter of safe conduct is provided by the Secretary of State. Okay. There's only one form of ID that you can get from the Secretary of State, and that's the passport. Okay. Now, everybody's passport, open up the first page, and this is what you're going to see. Okay. I know you can't read that. I get that. Up at the top is a quote from Abraham Lincoln. But the first paragraph, right there's your do not detain. And I'm going to put the exact words is in the chat. I just put it in there. It says the Secretary of State of the United States of America hereby request all whom it may concern to permit the citizen / national of the United States named herein to pass without delay or hindrance, and in case of need to give all lawful aid and protection. Okay, now, you know what delay means? Do you know what hinder means? Hinder means to stop. Delay means to slow down. So they can't tell you you're going too fast, and they can't stop you. Okay, so they got a problem when they realize, oh, wait a minute, it's a higher authority, okay, than your municipal, than any state policeman, okay? The United States Secretary of State says, don't hinder me, don't delay me, okay? Now, let me tell you how beautiful this works. So I don't have any contracts in Oregon. And I was pulled over by a sheriff in Oregon, by a sheriff. And he's come up to the window and he wanted my ID. That's what he asked for, not a driver's license. He asked for my ID. And I gave him my ID card that I ordered with my passport. As a matter of fact, I'm going to try to get that for you and I'll hold it up. So he asked me for my ID. Okay. So I gave him my passport book, the one I just held up for you. Okay. Coming back around. I'm tethered. It's like I'm a horse and I have a lead rope on.
Well, that's what this is all about, is getting untethered from
Yeah.
dirty
I
old Uncle
tethered
Sam.
myself. I tethered myself. Let me just hold this up. I'm not going to take it out of my wallet. You can see. Okay. That's the passport ID. It's a card. Okay. So first thing I did was I gave him this. He said, you don't have a card? Oh, yeah, sure. I've got a card. So I pull out the card. And he says, ma'am, do you have a driver's license? And I said, well, that's the only documents that I carry. That's the only ID that I carry when I'm traveling. I said, I'm on my way to Texas. And he said, well, so you don't have a driver's license? And I said, sir, the only ID that I carry with me when I'm traveling is what you have in your hand, and I'm on my way to Texas. So he goes back to his car, and I can see him on his cell phone, and I'm watching him. Actually, I had gotten out of the car to stretch my back, and so I'm walking around, and he gets out of his car, and he comes back to me, and he says, all right, he says, so he walks towards me and he holds this out like this. Okay, he's got my card up here. He holds it out like this and he says, thank you. And as I reach for it, he snaps it back like this and he says, so you don't have a driver's license? And I told him, I said, as I told you, that's the only ID I carry when I'm traveling, and I'm traveling to Texas. Now, I didn't tell him I didn't have a driver's license, and I didn't tell him that I did. The truth of the matter is I did, with the state of Texas. Okay? I was not operating under that contract, but what I wanted was, instead of sending it back and getting red flagged, I just wanted it to expire. Okay? So then he put it back down like this, and I snapped it from him and told him, have a nice day. Okay. Now he could have, if I was a registered agent, he could have served me with the service of process in Oregon with no registration, no license, no insurance, and failure to use my signal. So I get to Texas And it's about a week later, ironically, I was heading to the courthouse and I had on the seat right next to me paperwork to transfer the car into the trust name. And I was actually going to register it to the trust. And but I got pulled over, and he asked me for my driver's license. And I handed him my passport and said, that's what I carry when I travel. And he cuffed me right away. As soon as he went back to his car, actually typed my name in, saw that there's a contract between his corporation and mine. And anyway, he actually, so I had to bail out. And, but I asked him, I said, why are you arresting me? For what reason? He said, because you believe you don't have to have the driver's license on you. Okay. Now, he actually, when I got the paperwork and got home back to my friend's house and pulled up the codes online that he was charging me with, they're not arrestable offenses. Okay. Unless you've been found guilty 3 times in the past consecutive 12 months. Well, I hadn't even been in Texas for a year. So anyway, I followed some procedures with internal affairs, and the next week he did not have a job. Now, I'm sure it didn't bother him one bit, except for, because he can go from one police station to the next, except that he happened to work in a very rich city where there is zero crime. So he probably had to go to a high crime city and actually earn his pay. So anyway, nonetheless, he was fired for arresting me. My point is this: you have a contract, that you got a problem. If you don't, you're free to go. And by the way, I carry that affidavit with me everywhere I go in case there's any problems. I also have a US dot number, and that's probably a whole different call. But the DOT number that I have for the trust says that it is non-commercial and it is private number. So I was the exception to all the rules, all the drug testing, all the classes you have to take on drug testing and blah, 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 blah. I was exempt, or actually the exception to all those rules. So I'm also prepared to give them a number from the United States of America that says I'm not in commerce when I'm in that car. So that car, well, I'll tell you this. I had to go outside to get this. I had to get in the car, a car that is not insured and is not registered, and that I don't have a license to operate. And I go about freely. So this is not for the faint of heart, for certain. And it's our lifestyle is really for the true blue-blooded Americans that have true grit. So if you don't have that, you better keep your driver's license. But you need to get rid of your contracts. If you don't want to uphold them, then you've got to let them expire. You've got to void them nunc-pro-tunc for lack of consideration, lack of communication with the principal, lack of disclosure. And most importantly, they're not paying you to be those things. So you're not being compensated to operate in that courtroom. You're not getting paid by the state to be the registered agent receiving service of process. You're not getting paid to represent, and therefore you don't have any money to pay as the principal. But if you have those contracts, I suggest you get rid of them. But I suggest that you do not get rid of them until you understand completely how you got in that mess, and you make a conscious decision of how you want to live your life. And this is about if you abolish the government, you can only abolish the government in your life. You can't abolish the government. Okay. Everybody has government. Okay. So if you want to self-govern, then you have to set up to be self-governing. And that means that you have to get rid of those contracts with that government. But if you don't know how to self-govern, forget it. If you don't have self-control, if you don't know how to govern yourself, stick with your governor.
I part of the title for tonight's broadcast is protecting your rights. And that's one of the things people need to comprehend what we're talking about. Or actually, it's called protecting your property. But your rights are part of your property. Most states used to include in their driving code or their, state code, their vehicle code, they used to state in there the use of the public roadways as a matter of right. And a lot of states have dropped that off now. And this is one of the first things that I think a lot of people, when they start researching things, this is one of the first rabbit holes they come across, is like the driver's license and the birth certificate. And I remember early on when I was researching, I was seeing people that they were protesting it and saying, oh, my boyfriend and I, we went out and we had our own little ceremony and we burned our birth certificate and we burned the driver's license. And I'm thinking, that doesn't change any contracts. It just means that you don't have physical personal evidence of your end of the deal. It doesn't change things at all. What you have to do is you've got to go in and start changing these contracts. And one of the things I did, you're talking about registered agent, one of the things I did is I sent in a letter to Secretary of State, because when you read United States Code, everything in there is always saying, according to the secretary or as the secretary allows, that kind of thing. And so it's like, okay, that's who we need to communicate through, which that's who does the passport as well. So I sent them a letter of resignation and let them know that I was no longer going to participate as the registered agent for the organization that they created. And I listed like 4 or 5 reasons in the body of it why. And Jules, I think, touched on 1 or 2 of them earlier, which part of it was lack of payment, lack of correspondence between myself and the secretary. So,
I'm going to show you. Oh, sorry.
And as far as, people want to know results, I give you 3 kind of big things that have happened. Was that about 2 months after I did that, I went to go get my lifetime or whatever driving record, and the girl ran it off, put the piece of paper in front of me, and I didn't think she was done. She said, is there something more you need? I said, why? This is it? She said, yeah. Is there a problem? I said, no, it's just that it's blank. And I didn't say it, but I knew of at least 5 things that should have been on there that were not. But I think that since I resigned as agent, for their service of process, they could no longer attach anything to me, any of their claims. And so that was gone. And in the last year and a half, I've been pulled over twice for no driver's license, no registration, no proof of insurance. And each time I freely left the scene within like 20 minutes, no problem. And the last interaction I had, the officer kind of pulled me aside because there was several other officers that had shown up. He kind of pulled me aside and said, listen, Brian, he said, we don't really care about the driver's license. We don't really care about registration. He said, the only thing that really matters is some form of insurance or surety. And I said, okay. I said, is that due to, and now it's escaping my mind, the Financial Responsibility Act? And he said, oh, so you're familiar with all of this? I said, well, I've read up on it. He said, yeah, it's due to the Financial Responsibility Act. And that was it. So anyway, go ahead, Jules.
Brian, can you confirm, can you see my screen again?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so Gordon had brought up a good subject. I'm so glad you did, Gordon. He said, do you have the manufacturer's certificate of origin and in private trust? Okay, so let me show you something. Okay. Let's see. Here is the certificate of origin for a vehicle. Now, this is a big, huge RV, okay? And it's made by, I guess it's Airstream, but it has a different, I don't know car parts, okay? I don't know any of that. Don't even claim to, okay? It's a Mercedes-Benz vehicle. It's those vehicles. It's got all the living quarters back here, and you drive it, not pull it. Okay, so it came with 2 different certificates of origin. This is from Daimler. You see that? Now, Brian, can you see that?
Yes.
Okay, all right, sorry. I still called it. Okay, so Daimler is the creator of certain things, okay? And it gave it its portion of VIN number. You can see that right there, okay? And Daimler got a piece of paper out and created the certificate of origin, right? And this one, the other portion was made by Airstream, and pulled out a piece of paper, and they created a certificate of origin for the part of the date, for the portion, okay? And it gave that VIN number, okay? So now let me ask you this. Pull it up. Why do I do that? Escape. Okay. So Brian, if you create your own something, what should you do?
You need your own documentation.
You need to create the paperwork, right?
Yep.
So let's say that you created a kid. Shouldn't you create the paperwork for that kid?
Absolutely.
Yep. Okay. And that's where we're messing up. And you think you can't create things on paper because, oh gosh, this date has to do that. No. I'm showing you right here. Okay. Now I had the original. Okay. And this is a copy. This is a PDF. So in this, I hereby, hereon, certify this is a true and exact copy of the document matrix, which is the original. Look at Black's Law. Matrix means the original. I'm the original. Span is my shadow. Okay. The matrix. You're the matrix, the original. Okay. And then I put by, and then I signed it, and I signed registrar. Okay.
Hey Jules, you wanna drop
Yeah.
your screen share? Because it quit sharing and it garbles your voice while you're screen sharing.
Oh, it's so important that you see this. Hold on.
We saw it up there for a minute and then it went away.
Okay, tell me, I'm going to stop screen sharing and I'm going to go back because you need to see this.
Yeah, if anybody looks up matrix in legal dictionary, it'll tell you that the matrix is the original document from which all others are derived.
Oh my goodness. It's not screen sharing, is it?
Yeah, it is.
Oh, you can see that?
Yep.
Okay, there we go. Okay, all right. Okay, let me put this over here. Okay, let me show you this real quick. So I certified these documents, copies, because everything has to be certified, okay? So I certified these copies. Right here is the one that I created, and it's also on security paperwork, okay? Can you see this little, it's a little metal kind of foil tab down here?
Yep.
Okay, so this is security paper, okay? So all your bonds need if you're making any bonds or anything, they need to be on security paper. Okay. So I created the paperwork. This trust, because it now owns, okay, and it now owns this recreational vehicle, called that. Okay, so this is all written by me, okay, and it's registered because it's got the register number right there, but I'm the registrar for that trust. It's a trust that is in Florida. I'm the registrar for that trust. Okay. And I'm the notary private. You see right there? Notary private, not public. I'm notary private. My commission expires December 10th of 2099. Okay. So do you need a manufacturer's certificate of, I'm trying to close these things. Oh, anyway. Oh, here it is. So do you need their paperwork? No. And I'll tell you, not everybody's successful in getting it. And that I am not too concerned about it. Getting theirs, I would like to, but I'm not going to put too much effort into it. So anyway, I'm going to stop screen sharing. And anything that you own, you need to create a title for. And you need a registrar where you register that property to your trust or to your person. And I suggest you don't register anything to the person they created for you.
There was something interesting I did a little over a year ago, and I wrote up because everything I do is a single one-page document. I sent a information request to the Secretary of State and asked them if they had any right, title, or interest in the following property. And you can go, whenever I refer, for instance, to my legal person, I refer to it only by, I don't call it straw man or any of that crazy stuff. I refer to it only by its registered number on the certificate of live birth. That is the identifying number for it. So I asked, what right, title, or interest do you have in the following property? And you can write that number down. You can write down like VIN numbers for vehicles and things like that and send that off to them, because what better piece of paper is there to have back from the Secretary of State saying they have no right, title, or interest in the aforesaid property? Because then anybody that wants to come along, whether it's a judge or whatever, and they say, oh, you've got to do this with it, you got to do that with it. It's like, whoa, wait a minute. You work for the state. Your boss is the Secretary of State. And your boss says that they have no right, title, or interest to any of this property. So can you explain the position that you're taking now? Because this goes in direct contradiction with what your boss says.
Yeah. I was going to tell you too. So I was telling you that I went out to, it's a Murano, what do they call it? Nissan Murano, to get my passport. It is not registered. It is not insured, and I don't have a driver's license. When I went and signed the paperwork to get that Murano, I signed it. I gave them a fee for accessing my credit. And I signed that paperwork, comma, settlor. Not settler, settlor. Go look it up in your Black's Law. Settler versus settlor. So, yes. Who is that? Somebody Perro. Somebody Perro said finance fee for conducting the transaction. Oh, Keith. Is that Keith Little?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know he goes by that. Hi, Keith. Yes, I know you, Keith.
Let me bring Keith in.
Yeah. So, okay, so they charged me. Okay, let's back up because I do want to include this because this has to do with automobiles, cars, is using your credit. Okay, so you sign a promissory note, and when you do, you're actually granting them a security interest in that car. Okay, they are charging, and a charge has to be discharged. Okay, you have honesty and you have dishonesty. Okay, and dishonesty cancels out honesty. Okay, a discharge cancels out a charge. You can't pay a charge, you have to discharge a charge. You can pay a debt, but you cannot pay a charge. Okay, so a charge has to be discharged, and that's all that we have the capability of doing. We cannot pay a debt because all we have is debts. Okay, so oh my gosh, I wish I could just keep going on, but okay, I've got to rein myself in because I believe we're supposed to be paying with our bills. But anyway, so what I did was, okay, they want your social security number. So if you actually stop and ask them, why do you want my social security number? Okay, and they say, well, we're going to run your credit. Well, where's it going to run to? It doesn't have legs, so it can't run. So what are you really going to do? They're going to access your credit. So your ancestors gave the gold to the government, okay? That's consideration. And in equal consideration, the government gave the people credit. The only way credit works is if it's given first, when you don't owe anything. That's how credit is established. You can't go and apply for credit. You've got to give them money, and then you have credit with them. So the gold was given in equal exchange for credit. The problem is you don't know how to use your credit. So they give you this promissory note. That promissory note is based on your credit. That is how you withdraw credit. Okay, so like you go to a bank and you want to withdraw funds. These are all checks, not you want to withdraw funds, right? So you get a form that says withdrawal. If you want to make a deposit, it'll say deposit. Okay, so to withdraw money from your credit, we'll say money from your credit. To use your credit, you need to withdraw. Okay, now we can't get our hands dirty. Our servants can, because we were made kings and queens. That's what the Bible says. Okay, so we can't get our hands dirty. So we have our servants get their hands dirty. So we tell them, go get in my credit, okay, and withdraw $38,000, and I'm going to take this Murano, okay. That's where we mess up. So we and Keith put in here in the comments section, it's a finance fee for conducting the transaction. And yes, because every man is worthy of his labor, right? Everybody deserves to get paid. So I wrote them a small check, and that was for them accessing my credit for me. I have to pay my servant, okay? So they went in and got $38,000. We'll say it was 35, I think, from my credit. It's over. The problem is that you contracted on a mortgage that they made. Okay. So what's funny is that on that Murano, it was a company called that accessed my credit for me. It was called American Credit Acceptance. If you don't see the hysteria about that, I don't know how to help you, but they accept Americans credit. So I signed it, comma, settlor, which if you bothered to look that up, that is a trustee who settles settles the debts of a trust. Okay. So that charge was discharged by my credit. Now, if they come back and they say, hey, you owe $575 for every month, it's like, whoa, did you get that from somebody else's credit? That's the only way that I would owe anything. I told you to get it from my credit. Your mistake is your mistake. You didn't give me credit. American Credit Acceptance doesn't give credit, they accept it. So they did like this. It was like a week later. They want me to answer these questions and they're going to record me. And I said, okay, sure, fine. Hold on, let me get my recorder. They don't ever like to be recorded. But they start asking these questions, right? What's the make, model, year? You know, what color is it? How did you pay for the car? And I said, well, I wrote a check for this much for the services, and the balance I paid for using my credit. And it was like talking to somebody hypnotized. They don't care what you answer. They're just asking the questions, right? But when they need to get you in that contract, they're going to listen to that. They're going to use what you said against them. So they said, well, how much are your payments? Well, your payments are $575 a month. Okay? Because that's what they have to pay. If they mortgaged a security interest, those payments are on them. I'm telling you, 9 months later, on my credit report, which is where they grade how well I'm using my credit, they put it was discharged. They never came to me. I even changed my address with them, set up a post office box in Washington State, and I said, hey, send me my paperwork. I can't find my I can't, I moved and I can't find my paperwork. And they never made a payment demand. They never asked for a dime.
May I?
And it's settled. The whole thing is discharged. Yes.
Welcome again, Jules. Wonderful having you. And I wanted to point out, because what we're dealing with here is, like I said, it's a financial transaction. And you're supposed to pay them for the financial transaction. In these transactions, part of the main part of the problem that's happening is that you're signing over the security interest.
Yes.
Now, that security interest, you're supposed to actually put it back in the hands of the United States for the obligation to discharge that debt. And that is operated through your trust. And your trust then, therefore, is then at the discount window allowed to draw an amount for the financial transaction, which should be anywhere from 3 to 6% of the total transaction. And then at that same discount window, at the same time, the second side of the transaction is the transfer of credits to the lot to release the property. That part
and all its accoutrements, meaning
right.
The manufacturer's certificate of origin as well.
Right. And see, that releases that vehicle description. If you'll notice, I put a couple other comments in the chat section, because when we talk about a vehicle, that MCO doesn't say motor vehicle. It just says a certificate of title of a vehicle. Yep. And what it actually is, it's a financial document, which is a security interest, and therefore it is a security vehicle. That is the certificate of title. And you are the representative agent that signed up through the licensure.
Hey, Keith, did I talk to you on the phone one time when they had you kidnapped?
Yes. Almost 6 years ago, I was in the Blackhawk County Jail serving 60 days. I ended up doing 47, and you were trying to help run up some bail for me.
Yeah. So,
gosh, I ended up doing the 47 days, and I walked out refusing to sign any of their release paperwork. And the gal said, we got to have you sign this. We can't let you out. I said, really? And I pulled out the judge's discharge paper from my back pocket and said, you're going to violate the judge's discharge order? I was out of there quicker than I'd been out in 30 years.
You got to go. We got to get him out of here. And you,
He's been back since. They renewed that protection order 5 years now.
Hey, Keith. So let me say two things. One, they still have you in custody. Okay, but that's a whole nother topic. But Keith, because you have such a good understanding of what's going on. See, okay, because when I was born knowing that nothing here is real. And my parents thought I was crazy. I'm like, this is not real. This is not real. My parents they'd send me to the store with these Federal Reserve notes that they told me used to be backed by gold, but they're not now. I'm like, so it's paper? And I'm like, guys, this doesn't make any sense. And I don't want to touch it. I mean, I would hardly get it out of my wallet to pay for the groceries they had sent me to get. And I would hold out the bag and tell them, just put the change in here. I didn't even want to touch it. Okay. And I've always known nothing here is real. And I could prove that to you too, by the way. But Keith, I think you would be a good person to discuss something when you have time, hopefully soon, because, and I almost think I should wait till we stop the recording or get off the call, but I'm going to show you this so you guys can be thinking about it. Okay. So my trust is a foreign trust, and it is the exception to the taxes, and the IRS has acknowledged that it does not have any filing requirements. Okay. So look at this pay stub. Look at this stuff. Okay. So this is from the IRS, right? So it's got these little things on it. And now if you look at the bottom, Keith, look right there. It says use for payments. They sent me a blank check. Anyway,
They sent you a blank check.
So I want to talk to you about that because on the estates, let me show you, it's important that you see this. On my decedent estate, it doesn't say that. On my estates doesn't say that. Okay, but it does have, now this is important, 10 nines on it. So, Keith, if you're interested in discussing that with me, let me show you how this
10 nines, that's a routing number, and generally the Federal Reserve, if there's a routing number on there that starts with a 0, that's an automatic Federal Reserve routing. So
Yeah.
the 10 nines,
Okay.
I believe, would be an automatic IMF routing. I'm not sure.
Okay, so remember, everything is a game. This is all you're doing is participating. Everything is charges. Okay, if they've arrested you, there are charges. Those charges need to be not dismissed. That means I'll look at that later, right? Come back to me later.
Correct.
They have to be discharged. Okay, if they're charging you for something, you can pay with gold and silver, and there's a reason why. There's a 4 to 6 week time period between a conviction and sentencing hearing. Everything is financial. When you get out of jail, he paid his debt to society. Okay, did society get the check? No. Okay, so here's the deal. Okay, I showed you that, right? The blank check. Okay, so I'm putting on it. Let's see. It's hard to tell where. Pay to the order of. They left you a place to fill out pay to the order of. Now remember, everything is fake. It's a game. Okay, so think of Monopoly. You have to fund the game, right? The game has to fund the person, the player. You can't be on the board, okay, because you're real. But we're going to play the game with these little pieces, right?
Yeah, what's it say at the beginning of Monopoly? What's the rule? The bankers have to give you starting money.
That's right.
Dummies.
That's right. Okay. So they funded that person, that foreign trust. Okay. They funded that estate. Anyway, if you want to hash this out with me, I would love to talk to you about it, Keith.
Oh, most certainly. Because we know even in banking operations, say you needed $250,000 in funds, the bank would be glad to do so because it's done on a contribution basis and you're paying them a finance fee. Now think about this. Wouldn't the bank much rather have a finance fee of say 6% of 50 millions?
Sure.
So
Just
why not
remember,
go for the
too,
big money? Why not
if
go for the
my-
big money and learn how to do it right? Because I believe each and every one of these birth certificates are worth $250,000 is what you can put on them.
So here's the thing.
Make
If my
it a
last
donation from your organization to the community to build a project. It's 100% tax deductible. So what does it do? It returns, so you can write another check in the same amount.
That's right. It's about the returns too. So if my last name was Banks or Bank, would I be a bank like Chase Bank? No. And the fact that Chase has the word bank in it doesn't make it a bank either. Chase is not a bank. Wells Fargo is not a bank. They're depositories. Okay? And when you look at your deposit slips are routed to a whole different address than your deposit account. It's not a checking account, it's a deposit account.
Yep.
It's so your withdrawals come from one place and your deposits go to a whole nother place. Okay. Anyway, so I don't know, Brian, how much you know about the financial side of things.
Well, I've
But
played
you're
around.
welcome to join a phone call with me and Keith. Keith, when do you think you'll be available?
Gosh, I really am busy doing all my things, but no, anytime. You let me know when, and I'll be glad to get with you, girl.
Okay, Keith, you can get my number. I'm consenting to Brian giving you my number.
Okay,
And,
I don't have phone service.
Oh, you don't have phone service?
No.
What do you use?
The internet. Any
Skype?
electronic device that uses audio is actually considered a phone. So
Yeah. Do you use Skype or do you use Telegram or
I've got Zoom.
Zoom? Okay.
Yep.
Do you want to? Brian, do you have his Zoom?
No, but I can send it to you.
Okay. Yeah, because I've got Zoom.
I've got you on Facebook too, don't I?
Yeah, I don't really use.
We'll tell you what.
Facebook.
I'll send you my email here. I'm open on my email. Anybody can have my email.
Okay. You know, when I first started doing recordings, I gave everybody my home address, my email, my phone number. I didn't care. I was like, why hide anything? And then I had to change everything.
Yeah,
because I was overwhelmed.
I've had this Yahoo email for almost 25 years, and it's always been solid. Folks, I don't carry cybersecurity programs or anything. I'm just very watchful of the data elements I put out and the sites that I visit. And I've never had any problems, ever.
Okay, Keith, I'm going to send you an email, and we'll set up a time to get on a call because there's a couple things I want to show you. The thing is, I don't want to sit there and show in a bunch of people who aren't at a certain level where they can contribute and give consideration to. And I certainly don't want to throw out things that people not as knowledgeable can hurt themselves with. So anyway, that's why I'm saying let's get together. But there's backstory to that. So anyway, all right. Well,
yeah, and real quick here, because I don't know if you've heard much about my story since then, but they gave me some documents that I referred to in the chat section there. They told me who the obligor is, and as you were talking about the settler and settlor, those are specifics. And so when they told me who the obligor was on the financial index, and that they identified that obligor by a number. And they called it the Social Security number, when in fact that's not true. It's a number without the dashes, so it is not the Social Security number. And they identified not the last name, but the firm name, showing that they do have documentation that it's a corporate activity that I knew nothing about. Over 93 cases, both civil and criminal.
Hey, and two, I want to tell you, anybody that has ever bailed out of jail, pull up your bail paperwork. If you didn't keep it or you've lost it, go back to that company and get a copy of the paperwork, because the very first thing it's going to say is I, comma, and there's going to be a blank line, and your name would have been handwritten onto it, comma, the principal.
Yep.
So don't be mistaken. I'm telling you what, guys, anybody, I'm going to tell you, the best advice I can give anybody, I don't care how deep you are into this, I don't care what arena, what rabbit hole you've been chasing down, or if you've been chasing down 100 rabbit holes, heed this advice. If you're never going to listen to anything I ever say, understand this. If it doesn't make common sense, it's not right. I don't listen to people. I don't follow people. I don't sit down and listen to calls like this. If I'm on a call like this, you're listening to me, because I don't listen to other people. Okay. And it keeps my mind free. Okay. I'm thinking during the day. I don't care what I'm doing. If I'm running the vacuum or washing the dishes or working on this computer, my brain is going. And I don't care what it is that you hear or you read in your research. Ask yourself, hit still pause and say, does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Because if it doesn't make sense, you're going way too deep. These are shallow motherfuckers that you've been dealing with. It's all right there on the surface, but your ego is saying, well, I know what that means. You're reading something. I met a lady the other day, and we were like, oh, it's going to be great. You're right here. We'll be friends. And we went and had lunch. And then I find out, oh, she's got legal problems. Who doesn't? And I said, well, hold on. I said, I can't really help you or give you any advice until I read the contract, because that's the law. The law is in that contract. Anything it doesn't say, doesn't matter. She said, well, the Constitution doesn't apply to that contract. Let me see the contract. And then I showed her things in that contract. And this was a contract written by a stupid person. Okay. Not even an attorney. Okay. And I showed her, I said, look, they have to pay you for this. They have to pay you for that. And see, when she was reading the contract after she'd had problems, she was assuming that she knew what the agreement was. So if you can shut your brain up, just shut up for a minute. All these presumptions, all these, well, I know what that word means. No, you don't. No, you don't. Go look it up in that Black's Law, and then come back and find out if you knew, because 60% chance you didn't know, okay, what that word means. So turn your ego off. Humble yourself. And anything that you think, oh my God, it's just too much. It's too much. It's too much. It's too much. Here's what you do. Take a highlighter. Let's say you're trying to look at a code. Take that code and highlight everything that is not sectioned off by commas. Okay? A semicolon, consider that a whole new sentence, because a semicolon gives you the ability to blend two sentences together without it being a run-on. Okay? Don't highlight anything between commas. Okay? If it starts out with something with a comma, don't highlight that. Okay? Start from that comma, move forward. You see a comma, pick up that highlighter, and don't highlight what's in between those two commas. It's just extra wording. Now, read everything that you've highlighted. You're like, oh shit, that's pretty simple. Okay? If that doesn't make it simple for you, I want you to go and read that right before you go to bed, and just lay there and worry about it. That's called meditating. Okay. Concern yourself with it. Okay. And just think about it. And as you fall asleep, just be thinking about it. And when you wake up, you're going to open your eyes. You're going to be like, oh my God, it makes so much sense now, because your consciousness shut down, and that's where your ego exists. And your subconscious, that's your spirit, answered everything for you and worked it all out while your ego was shut down and couldn't run its mouth. Okay. You'll wake up in the morning, everything will make sense in the morning. And if it doesn't make common sense, move on. That's my thoughts.
I was thinking about it's very similar quite a while ago, and thinking about jurisdiction and where jurisdiction is really held at. And when you and Keith were talking about property, everything they're concerned about is payment or how was it financed and that type of thing. And the last two vehicles that I purchased from a private seller, and I had those things going through my mind the first time, and then I tried the same thing a second time, and it worked again. And what I did is when I went to change the title with the previous owner to get the title out of their name, what they do, at least here at this on the state of Florida, is the clerk will take you from the changing of the title. Then step 2 is whose name is this registered in? You know what I mean? And then what kind of plate do you want? Because on Florida, you cannot own a vehicle that is unregistered. You can't have an unregistered vehicle in front of your home. Every vehicle has to have some sort of registration to it, even if it is just in a state of, say, repair, or it's like having work done on it over a period of time before it gets on the road.
State of
Yeah.
repair, state of being.
And so in thinking about that, and I had been looking at a court case where a judge was kind of confused as to what he was going to do. It was regarding somebody that had been moving large amounts of drugs. And the judge was confused as to whether or not he had jurisdiction or not, because all of these drugs were being trafficked with Bitcoin, not with Federal Reserve notes. And so when I went and had these titles transferred, and it's the same thing has happened twice in a row now, when I had the titles transferred and they asked how much the vehicle had been purchased for, I said, well, it was purchased in silver. It wasn't purchased in USD, United States dollars. So it was purchased in silver. And when I said that, they're like, oh, okay. And they completed doing the title, printed off the new title, gave it to me, and said, have a good day. Not one word about registration or license plates or any of that was brought up. And what that told me is because their authority is over the things that are done with Federal Reserve notes. That's where their power is at.
And let me just touch on something, we can come back and talk about this later too, is the Federal Reserve notes are bills that the United States corporation owns, excuse me. They're bills that the United States corporation owes.
They represent obligations.
So, well, they're bills. Yeah. They're bills that they owe. Okay. So it's like an IOU from the United States. Okay.
Right.
But you're not doing that. Okay. Let's pretend like, let's pretend like this is a bill. Okay. Just pretend like this is a statement from the electric company and it has a voucher, which is a receipt for payment. And look it up in blacks. So you take off this bottom part off of the statement, which is just a statement, like the sentence I just used is just a statement. Okay. So they sent you a bill, but it's your bill. And if you do because this is my rule, it worked for them, that's what I'm supposed to be doing, and it'll work for me. So if I take my electric bill and I take off the bottom voucher. Okay. And let's say that I owe Dillard's. Okay. And they want me to pay. Well, I'm supposed to pay with a bill, right? So so the electric bill is $100 and Dillard's wants $100. I'm like, well, here, I'm not going to pay you with somebody else's bill. I'm going to pay you with mine. We're not doing things right. We're not doing things the way they do things.
Exactly.
It's just common sense. It's not a check, it's a bill.
That's
Pay
what I've
your
been saying.
bills with bills.
That's what I've been
Because in
saying
this
for the last
system,
year is they've
we
taught
pay-
everybody how to behave like peasants.
We, in this system, in this game, they call life, we're supposed to pay debts with bills. We're supposed to pay a debt with a debt. So they send us a bill, okay? And listen, if you follow me on TikTok, I did 12 1-minute videos on TikTok on my TikTok account explaining to you how to use your credit. Okay? And so when they send you a bill, okay, they'll have a voucher at the bottom, okay? And it'll be a positive $100, right? So you have to give them a negative 50 to cancel that, to reconcile that ledger. That's why you give them a bill, is because they're giving you positive numbers. They're giving you credit, and you've got to give them debt. Don't be afraid to do it.
Exactly.
Listen, guys, really, when you figure out the system and you use it like they do, it'll work for you too. Okay, it'll work for
It
you
just
too.
becomes too easy, doesn't it?
It becomes hysterical, really, and you'll be like, let's don't change anything. Let's don't change anything. I'm sorry. Maybe I need some sleep. I don't know. To me, it's all hysterical. I had accounting, and yes, I cry when I laugh. I had accounting in high school, and I freaking loved it. I loved the order of it. It made sense, right? Numbers make sense. And if you want to understand, the ancestors gave our gold and silver, and in equal consideration, they gave us credit. If you want to understand that, combined with they give you a positive number and you've got to give them a negative number, and stop paying with their bills and send your bills. Okay, go look at it on TikTok. It's you know what? I should probably put that who to follow in. Let me see what the let me see if I can give you my name for TikTok. Nope. I'm going to have to take my headset off for a minute, and I'll be right back. I apologize.
No problem. That's one of the things that I've been finding, really, when you look into credit and how credit works, and look at how the other 3% or 1% are taking care of things and how they operate, you find that they're really operating in credit. They've got the peasants all spending their FRNs, while the people on the other side, they are all spending their credit. And they get a lot further ahead that way as well. The rules change quite a bit. And when you're spending the credits instead of the FRNs, then you're not seeing that monopoly money necessarily disappearing from you near as quick.
Okay. What is everything? I like the laughing good frequency. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Somebody said stop laughing. I'm sorry. Okay. You can find me on TikTok like this. I'm gonna put it in the
And Jules, also another thing, just so you know, I also speak of 50 USC 4305, wherein that's the military code for full acquittance and discharge, wherein no person shall be held liable in any court. That sounds like a peace accord as well. That's that
Yeah.
full acquittance and discharge. Acquittance goes with the remittance. See, when you get that bill, you're supposed to remit it back to the utility company. Say you get a bill from the utility company, you remit it back to the utility company, and under 50 USC 4305, you give that utility company a directive to return the security interest back to the United States for full acquittance and discharge in the interest of the United States and for the account of the United States, so that no person shall be held liable in any court.
Hey, I'll tell you one other thing, and I will try to not laugh. Did you guys know that, on their bills, it says, "In God we trust"? In God we is a trust that is registered with the Secretary of State, doing business in your lovely state. It's called In God We.
And if you go into the Hebrew, God is actually an entity of fortune.
Well, I say the Father. They've lied about everything. I do use the word Jesus just so people understand, but I always try to give a disclaimer. I believe all of that is pagan. If you go back, they changed it to Yeshua from Yahushua. I believe the furthest back that's been found is Jesus's name is Yahushua, not Yah. Oh, see, it gets confusing. Not Yahuwah or not. Oh, what is it? They changed it from Yahushua to Yahweh, and then to Jesus. It's a pagan name. But you're responsible for what you know.
Yahweh was the God of the Old Testament that was kicking the people's butts every time they worship somebody else.
Yes. What's the name that most people think that Jesus is?
Yeshua is used quite a bit.
Yeshua. Yes. But it's actually Yahushua.
Yep.
That's what it was before they changed it. Anyway, we've gotten pretty far away from our original.
Yeah,
Hey, it looks like we didn't start recording until 2 minutes ago.
No, we've been recording the whole time, almost an hour and 45 minutes now. So.
Okay. All right, guys. Well, I'm going to call it a day. Brian, thanks for letting me talk on your show tonight. And Keith, thank you. And look for an email from me, okay?
Will do, sister.
All right. And I'm glad you're out there. I'm glad all of y'all are out there. Oh, I guess I should say, is there anybody that wants to ask a question before we go? I don't mind staying for questions because I love questions.
Yeah, I think they asked a lot probably in the.
I know people have been putting comments up here, but I've been trying to.
Somebody does have their phone, their hand up on line 304 extension.
That's 304. I think they just dropped. I think they just took their hand down. Yeah. 304 took their hand down.
There we go. There's somebody.
Oh, they have it back up? Okay. Yeah, they got it back up. So let me unmute 304. And you're unmuted, 304.
Good evening, Brian. This is Ken. Can you hear me?
Yeah, how you doing, Ken?
Oh, gosh, I can't.
Can you hear me, Jules?
Speak up a little bit more if you can.
Okay, I wanted to ask a question. Jules was talking, in case she can't hear me, maybe you can relay the question. She was talking about the use of trusts out of Florida, yet she said it was a foreign trust. I was wondering if she was talking about anything that Jack McKeag does, number one. And number two, I didn't hear her really say anything about UBOs or PMAs. I would presume that she's familiar with them, and I wanted to know whether or not she would also use them and how she would use them as opposed to the trust that she's talking about. And then I also had a question that I wanted to ask Keith, but I'll deal with one thing at a time.
Okay, it's like he's whispering. I wrote down PMA. Hit those topics one more time because I have a paper now.
Well, he was wondering
Okay,
when you touched on the trust, if it involved PMA or UBOs or anything like that.
And Jack McKay.
And Jack, right? I think I heard him say Jack McKay, right?
Yes.
Jack
Yes.
McKeag, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So I'm familiar with. I've been told of Jack McKeag's process, which I really, really, really do like the idea of, and someone that an assistant of mine, which sometimes I'm his assistant and sometimes he's my assistant, so it goes both ways. Both have we've tossed around a lot about going straight to small claims courts on some small thing and getting your judgment. I really like all that, and I think. Based on the things that I've heard, I would definitely recommend that you guys listen to Jack McKay. I think he's probably got the arenas that he's working in. He's found success. So people that I know have worked directly with Jack. So I get things kind of fed to me. So I'd give him a thumbs up if you guys are interested in looking at him. You talked about, okay, so let me clarify. The trust that is on this call that I'm speaking for is a foreign trust. It has an EIN. Merely so that it gets recognition. It doesn't employ because an employer is a tax collector and it doesn't have any employees. It has officers, if you want to call them that. It is run completely legitimate. There's minutes. There's a board of trustees. All the offices are filled. The title that I showed you for the trust, I did that for somebody in Florida for their trust. Okay, so and in reference to PMAs, okay, that is a private membership association for anybody on the call or listening later. And private membership associations are wonderful, beautiful things. Okay. If you're running a company, run it as a PMA. Let me tell you who does it so you understand how powerful a PMA can be. The Bar Association is a private membership association. So thumbs up for those. Every entity is created on paper. Okay. Stop using their paper person. Create your own person, create your own laws, your own rules, your own ordinances, and your own policies. Okay? So, like I said, I could only pick up things here and there. But if you have a more specific question, no, I am not using a PMA. I run everything through the trust, and the trust ordains. If let's say that if I need another entity, the trust will ordain it. So I get all of my marching orders from the trust.
To express the power of a PMA in today's modern age, we have nightclubs that shut down at 2:00 in the morning, but they remain open for private parties afterwards. This is where the alcohol and everything is free and provided by the club, and there's an entrance fee for the event, which is private. And that's all it is. It's just a concept of privacy and how you conduct your affairs. You could do this in the daytime and call it a private club, and nobody's charged for the alcohol. Therefore, you have no alcohol tax because you're not selling the alcohol.
Now I am fixing to start a PMA on an app that Roger Dowdell and I had talked about creating an app years ago, and then I found out that there's already an app like this that'll do this for me. I haven't done it yet, but basically I'll be making videos and teaching. And you'll have to sign up for a membership, and it'll automatically withdraw your subscription fee. So it'll be about $10, $15 a month. And you'll be able to go in there as a member and watch any video you want. And I'll just keep clicking those videos out to you. So that's a private membership association. And remember, you have the right to associate and to assemble, but you do not have the right to gather.
Yeah, under Article 1 of the Constitution, no state can impede the obligation of a contract. And that is all a private association is. You have gathered together under contract with each other.
And let me tell you something else. Anytime a cop asks you where you're going, tell them I'm on my way to an assembly.
Yeah,
and you get a ticket on the way to the assembly.
Yeah, exactly. Ken, you said you had a question for Keith as well.
Yes, thank you for the answers, Jules. Keith, I was on the National Assembly call the other night, and they were talking about a gentleman named Keith Edward Livingway, and the fact that he was talking about reestablishing the postal union, and in short order they were saying that was not going to work, and that was a theory that had come from a purchase made at a postal auction, and then someone else called a point of order or something similar to that this did not belong on the call because it was more statutory in nature. Were they likely talking about you? Because I didn't think they had the name quite right when they said Keith Edward Livingway. No,
that's the guy of the United States of America, the one that wants to push that they're the new de jure American republic.
Yeah, his claim is that they've reinstated the union, and he already did. They did the postal thing quite a while ago, and the claim that it came from an auction sale, which is ridiculous, supposedly came from Man of On Rights, I guess. But in either situation, whether it's her or whether it's Livingway, the best advice that anybody could take regarding them is run screaming.
Right. And let me tell you something, guys. I've done extensive research on the postal union, the postal system, postmasters, and everything, Admiralty Maritime, and I've got one of the greatest books in my possession. And this is the Blue Jackets manual from 1940. And when we talk about postmaster or any kind of master, they are the people that you go to make complaints or to make requests or anything like that.
What do you call the book? The Blue Jacket? What?
Blue Jackets Manual, 1940. It's the Navy manual. It's the Navy manual, and this is where all jurisdictions extend in the military form. It starts out with the Coast Guard and the Marines, and that's your first insurer. Then you have the transportation system within the national organization, which is in this case, the United States, and wherein that they use the postal systems. Post offices are in fact inland marine stations, and they carry inland marine insurance. Now the transportation.
Did you say your name is Ron?
Ken.
Yes.
Let me ask you something. You said that it tells you the order of jurisdictions, and then you named the Coast Guard first. Did I understand you or no?
No, this is Keith. This is in reply to Ken's question
Oh,
there.
Keith. Oh,
Yeah,
okay, okay.
the Navy, the Blue Jackets manual is a Navy book, and this is where all laws of the jurisdictions extend because it's military law first, admiralty of the sea. Okay.
Keith, have you noticed that the Coast Guard flies the peacetime flag?
Yes, that's because of the Coast Guard cutters, and that is what they do. They cut through the water, and these are the income tax cutters. They are the revenue cutters because they're the ones that go after the ships in port that are trying to evade the taxes that are for the transports inland. Okay, so they cover the coast. The Marines cover the water outside of the coast. The post office is staffed is just an inland marine station that is staffed by postal workers hired through the United States. They're not Marines. They're not military officers. They're civilian personnel hired to staff the inland marine substations. Now, that's the Inland Marine Insurance through the United States, and they own the postal roads and routes.
Are you familiar, Keith, with post roads?
Correct. Post
Yeah.
roads and postal routes. Postal routes are all pipelines.
So
This is your
you know that.
airways, your electronic means, your walkways, your roadways, your pipe and oil lines, your telephone lines, your communication cable, all of them.